So today we're going to talk about the financing of an independent film. So we're going to discuss what an independent film is and the main parties that are involved in an independent film financing. So Garth, do you want to start us with that?
Yeah, so I think the first question you would ask is what do we mean when we're talking about an independent film? And typically we're talking about a feature film that is financed, produced and distributed outside of the integrated studio system. So studios, typically in the US, would have an in-house function to finance, produce and distribute productions themselves. In the independent structure, you need to engage third parties to provide those services. So we'll have financiers brought in to fund the film, we'll have a sales agent engaged to sell the film, and also distributors engaged directly by the production company in order to distribute the film. So I think probably would be best to start with the production company and what they do. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what the production company does?
Yeah, sure. So the production company is obviously there to produce the film. So it will procure the financing, it will engage the actors, the director, the individual producers. If there are tax incentives available, then it will apply for those. It'll make sure that it's got the right insurances in place. If there's filming going on in other countries, then it will engage the local production services companies to help it do that. It will make sure that it's got all of the rights in place to actually produce the film. And generally speaking, it's going to be in charge of making sure that the film gets produced and delivered to the sales agent and the distributors. We generally structure a production company as an SPV, so a special purpose vehicle, and that's essentially a company that's been set up specifically for the purpose of producing that particular film. There are a few reasons that we do that. From the producer's perspective, it's helpful because it means that at least some of the risk associated with producing a film is contained to some extent within the production company. From the perspective of a tax incentive, it's important because it helps to simplify accounting, because essentially you're starting from a blank slate. And then from a financier's perspective, it's very important because it helps to ring fence the film assets within one entity, and that way you can help to avoid cross-contamination with assets and liabilities that would otherwise probably exist in a more established company. So that's the production company. I guess that moves us on to distributors.
So distributors are another key party within the structure, and in independent film, the rights will be sold, the distribution rights will be sold on a territory by territory basis. So we'll have distributors acquiring rights in their respective territories. For that, they will pay a minimum guarantee, or an MG, as it tends to be called, which tends to be split between a deposit payment, which is due on signature of the documentation, and then a final payment, which is due when the film has been delivered to the distributor in accordance with certain specifications that are agreed in the distribution agreement. And the distributor will then recoup that minimum guarantee from the receipts derived from its territory. So I think that leads us on neatly to talk about what a financier does and their role in the structure.
Sure, okay, so the financier is there obviously to advance the funds to actually make the film. And although the production company is just an SPV, it does still have assets that can be used to collateralize that financing. Most importantly is usually any anticipated tax incentives. There may also be pre-sales, so that's where the production company has gone out to the market and has sold the film in advance in certain territories. In some circumstances, financiers may also be prepared to advance gap financing, so that's where they basically estimate the value of film rights still to be sold and advance funds against that. On an independent film financing, you will often have debt, mezzanine and equity financiers all contributing funds, and they will each have a different risk and return profile. So on one hand, you have debt financiers who will be repaid first and who will be charging interest. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have equity financiers who are generally repaid last, but in return for taking that risk, will take a portion of the net profits in the film. Sometimes you'll also have bridge financing in place, so that's essentially a loan to the production company to help see them through until the full financing of the film closes. So I guess that leads us into thinking about where the money actually comes from. So probably the sales agent is the one to discuss that.
So a sales agent performs a really important role in the structure. They're engaged by the production company in order to sell the rights in the film to distributors. And they'll be experts in that area with a network of contacts in which to sell the right films to the right distributors. They're also charged with servicing delivery to those distributors of the film when it's ready. And they will receive a commission for doing so, and also recoup some sales expenses for the expenses they've incurred in performing that role. And from a financier perspective, they're also a very key party in the structure, as especially when they're lending gap against the unsold rights. So financier will want to have a direct contract with the sales agent in order to set out the parameters about selling the film, have approval rights, and ultimately, if the film isn't being sold the way that they want it to, there's a termination right often in the agreements to replace the sales agent. So next, we look towards a completion guarantor and the service they provide.
Sure, well, so the completion guarantor sort of does what it says on the tin, really. It guarantees completion and delivery of the film to the sales agent and to the distributors. And it guarantees that that's going to happen by a certain date and up to a certain spec. And if that doesn't then happen, then subject to certain exclusions, then the completion guarantor is on the hook to return the financing to the financiers. The completion guarantor is also important if the film goes over budget, because again, subject to various exclusions, the completion guarantor will cover that over cost. In some circumstances, it may decide actually to even take over production of the film itself, and as a last resort, it may choose to actually abandon the film entirely, in which case the completion guarantor will repay the funding to the financiers. So I think the last entity we'll discuss is the collection agent.
So the collection agent is engaged by the production company to collect and administer any receipts that are derived from the film, and it's helpful to have an independent party to administer these for transparency and also to avoid any conflicts between the parties.
So that's an introduction to independent film finance. If you'd like to find out more, please visit our website.